former career diplomat, energy department official, and foreign policy analyst. Bart, good afternoon. Always great to have you on the show. So Governor Gavin Newsom says restoring production at the oil facility will have no impact on lowering global oil prices. Your response?
Well, Gavin Newsom is pointing out the small number of barrels. He's saying, oh, it's only 0.05%. And that's correct. The global demand is 100 million barrels a day, and this will produce about 50,000 barrels a day. But long term, it will have a much greater impact than releasing oil from the strategic petroleum reserves of Western countries. The only way to combat a long-term threat to oil supply is to increase long-term oil supply. This is a beginning, and it's absolutely the right step to take. Gavin Newsom is playing fast and loose. And, you know, he's one to talk about prices. If you look at the average gasoline price across the United States, it's about $3.59, $3.69 a gallon. But if you take out California prices, it's only about $3.29 a gallon, because California prices are $5.50 a gallon, because people like Gavin Newsom have created artificial shortages in California and then taxed the gasoline on top of that. He's not somebody anybody should go to for advice on the oil markets or on pricing or supply and demand.
And to your point, Bart, the Energy Department also cited some of those points that California's policies have led the region and U.S. military forces dependent on foreign oil. Maybe you can just talk a bit more about that, about these policies.
Sure. So you know, let me back up a little. I was born and raised in Kern County, California, which, to the shock of almost everybody in America, Kern County, California is still the #3 most oil producing county in America. Still to this day, as far as I know. As of a year and a half ago, it still was. And it's producing oil in traditional methods. There is a ton of oil in California, in Kern County, in the Signal Hill area farther south, along the coast, and especially out along the coastlines. And it is the policies of people that have shut down that oil supply that have made oil less available and therefore more expensive. And this was an explicit policy of the Chinese Communist Party, was to convince American politicians and American consumers to stop producing American oil, gas, and coal, because China wants to buy it cheaply, and they want us to stop producing our own. They don't want us they don't want us using it. It's a terrible situation. And when you get to gasoline prices, there's an artificial shortage created because of the high ridiculous environmental standards in California, and only a handful of refineries in the world can produce the gasoline that they use in California. And they also use that gasoline in Arizona and Nevada.
Okay, so Chris Wright has also talked about national security concerns from a national security aspect of restarting this oil facility in California. Can you just comment on that? What is your view on the situation from a national security perspective? Just expand on that point.
Sure. From a national security perspective, you want to produce as much domestic energy as possible. Energy is the sine qua non of national security. Everything we do depends on widely available, easily affordable energy supplies. The thing that differentiates us from, you know, people living in, say, Malawi, or people living in the 18th or 19th centuries, is access to energy on demand. We can flip a switch and know that the light is going to go on, the machine is going to work, the data will be produced by our computers. It all depends on energy. And the country that is strong is the country that produces its own energy and is not dependent on a foreign nation for it.
And it also gives the U.S. More power on the world stage, right? Because if it's independent when it comes to energy, then it can impose, for example, sanctions on oil-producing countries, certain ones, and it wouldn't have much of an impact domestically in terms of oil prices.
Absolutely. And it's a big reason for the cowardly, craven policies of the UK and Western Europe regarding the Middle East. They are dependent on oil. Almost all of their oil comes out of the Strait of Hormuz, especially Western Europe. And almost none of ours does. That locking down the strait doesn't affect our oil supply. It affects the world market price, but it does not affect our physical supply.
Okay, Bart, just one final thing. I'm wondering if you could respond to certain criticisms or opposing arguments about opening this facility in California, this oil production facility. So as you're aware, in 2015, a pipeline rupture spilled crude oil along the Santa Barbara coastline. Some of the opponents of this administration's move are citing safety and environmental concerns. Does that have any bearing on the conversation we're having here when we're talking about whether national security, bringing down oil prices, or just the overall situation with Iran?
I'm glad you asked that. It brings up another point about Gavin Newsom. In his statement, he said something about this is something that is going to ruin our beautiful beaches. It's a bad look for Newsom to be talking about going to the beach and beautiful beaches when what we're talking about is human life and life on Earth as we know it. People are worried about the new missiles that Iran is producing and that they're using. They're worried about the lives of American servicemen and women overseas. They're worried about all kinds of things when Iran only has missiles with conventional high explosives. Imagine what it would be like if we were dealing with an Iran that had intercontinental ballistic missiles that could reach Washington, that could reach Los Angeles, that could blow up all of Long Beach and not just sully the beach. Those are, an environmental concern is very valid, but taking proper safety measures, safety precautions is all that's necessary. That spill was caused by unsafe procedures by passing ships. It was not caused by anything that the energy companies had done wrong. And safeguarding that is a relatively simple thing, and that is nothing compared to the cost of human life. Imagine a nuclear missile hitting Los Angeles and knocking out every hospital just at the time that you have just killed 1 million people and injured 4 million more. People need to get a perspective on this. And what we're doing, we have decided to respond to Iran's 47 years of warmongering against us now, because now is the moment of their greatest weakness in those 47 years. This is the time to stop the evil that the Islamic Republic of Iran has propagated.
Well, all right, Bart, great points. Always enjoyed speaking with you. I won't keep you here any longer. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Don. Thanks a lot. Bye.